the past week. I've been waiting, and then finally the time has come. I really enjoy those informative type of videos where I give my opinion on what's been going on the past week. Not only where I live in Canada, but also the world. Basically, just pushing out interesting stories. And for today's episode, if you will, I'll be covering two stories that have been going on that I'm pretty sure everybody knows that are happening, but just gonna overview them. Now, my first story of what's been going on the past week, as many of you I'm sure have seen, thousands opposed to COVID-19 rules converge on the Parliament in Canada, in Ottawa actually. There are give or take 50,000 truckers going to Ottawa. They went all the way from British Columbia, and they went through this sort of tour, if you will, of Canada, all the way to Montreal, and then they're going to Ottawa right about now, I'm pretty sure. Now, basically, there's a lot of how should I put this? A lot of people who support them. It's a pretty insane thing here in Canada because you see this sort of column of truckers going on the highway, entering Canada or entering not Canada, Montreal rather, and you see just people from all walks of life just being in the on the sidewalk, and with signs supporting them and giving them support, and you see all kinds of different people, and there's a lot of interviews going on here in Canada. People are asked, why are you supporting them, and most of the people who support them are vaxxed. A lot of truckers are vaxxed. It's much more about the just don't enforce rules on us, don't force us to do things. That's the whole and now, of course, Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, is freaking the hell out, rightfully so, because it's a pretty. I'm pretty sure it was coming. My personal opinion, it was coming, especially with the way things happened in England. Not quite that long ago. I think 3 or 4 days ago, where they lifted all the restrictions, and that sort of created a precedent, in my opinion, of success in people's eyes, because I believe a lot of people over the past few months and potentially year and a half have seen a lot of governments take these draconian actions with the intent of safeguarding its citizens, at least on paper, and you see all these lockdowns, and you can go to the gym, and you see a lot of these very unfair you unfair actions by politicians, and it's been you've seen them in America, you've seen them in Canada, you've seen them in the UK, you've seen them all over the world, where politicians set certain rules to quote unquote protect their citizens, and then they go and break their rules right after the press conference, for example. And I believe a lot of people became dissuaded with the way things were. They told themselves, well, this is it, man. What do you want to do? People were in power. They tried to recall Gavin Newsom for the catastrophic way he handled California during the pandemic, where because of his measures, so many people have lost their livelihoods, or maybe even their dreams. I'm specifically talking here about the restaurant business. And people, became dissuaded, and they became disillusioned with what's right and what's wrong. Not so much what's right or what's wrong, but what's the fairness of the world, so to speak. And that's why I believe a lot of people have had enough. And that's one of the reasons. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going on a pretty wild tangent. That's one of the reasons I believe with what happened in England, where they lifted all the measures basically overnight. It gave a lot of confidence in a lot of people that this can be done. You know, you put enough pressure on the government, and hopefully, if you've not fallen all the way to tyranny, um, which can we just say on a small tangent here that how fast a lot of governments, a lot of democratic governments on paper fell into authoritarianism during the pandemic, and it sort of snuck up on us because we had a lot of things to deal with over the past few year and a half, 2 years, and we didn't really think about it. But the way Australia behaved truly blew my mind personally. I did not expect that. And maybe, listen, I'm not Australian, I don't live in Australia. I watched a few interviews with Australians where they were trying to justify the way they were doing things, but the problem I started seeing is that a lot of those measures that are taken. I mean, I saw that from right at the start of the pandemic. They're not taken, in my personal opinion. Now, granted, I'm not a doctor, so take whatever I'm saying with a grain of salt, of course. But I believe they're much more political, so that if you if you know that the best way to combat COVID is let's say it's to let it go through the population, which I believe, it's the right thing to do. Yeah, not so much the right thing to do, but it's gonna go through us anyways. You can't just stop it at the border. It's not like it's people. So might as well not destroy the livelihoods of thousands, if not millions, of people. Um, with the way things happen in California and so many other places, as here in Quebec, I mean, it's been a nightmare with curfew, and if you go past 10 p.m. at night, where are we here? What's this? The USSR? They closed shops on Sundays. And so who closes like a grocery shop on Sunday? You know what I mean? It's like, uh, and yeah. So now the protests are ongoing. They haven't yet reached, as far as I know, they haven't yet reached the capital. Uh, but I hope things will start looking up. I hope somehow, some way, Trudeau won't be able to sort of move this to his favor in some way or another. Now, this is our first story. I hope you enjoyed it. The second story, which is, I mean, it's been going on for week, 2 weeks now, is Ukraine, of course. And this, to be honest with all of you, I'm pretty sure a lot of people were in my camp on this. I thought this was gonna be another, posturing from Russia. People will be outraged, but they won't really care what happens to Ukraine, and people will just move on. People will be like, what do he wants to do? He's putting an army there. He put one army a few years back. It is what it is. And then now people sending helmets, which is freaking hilarious. When Germany sent 5,000 helmets to help the Ukrainians, which is like, I mean, it's better than nothing, I guess, but it's fucking hilarious. I'm sending you my support to you. Helmets. Like, Jesus Christ. Estonia is sending equipment. The UK, US. And now the US is, where is it? Yeah, the US places 8,500 troops on alert for possible deployment to the Eastern Europe. To be honest, I don't know where things go right about now, because logically, from a logical point of view, now granted, take this with a grain of salt again, because I don't really know. I know that Russia has large cash reserves, like really large cash reserves. So when the US talked about sanctions, if they attacked, if they invaded, they talked a lot about financial sanctions. But if they have enough cash reserve, they'll be able to survive and they won't just collapse, at least initially. Um, but yeah, I don't know where things are going from here, because now everybody's escalating, and if you back down, you look weak. I mean, look what happened with Biden. Uh, I don't know how long ago it was. Pretty sure a few days, maybe a week and a half, where he basically they asked him, about Ukraine, and he said, "Well, if they invade, well, a little bit of invasion." He was really very cavalier about everything, but he didn't want to get involved. Basically, the way things seemed, and then the whole media compiles, turned against Biden, and now he reneged on his initial thoughts on the matter, and now he's pro war. He's like, we're gonna save this nation, democracy. Like, haven't we seen this playbook? And it's what really strikes me as like not so much odd, but people, the way politicians talk about war with Russia as if they're going to war with Venezuela or Afghanistan, it blows my mind. You know what I mean? Like, they're talking about, we're going to war with Russia. Yeah, Russia. Who's Russia? 1.3 trillion dollars economy. We're gonna beat their fucking ass. Oh yeah? What? 5,000 nuclear? We're gonna beat them no matter. You know what I mean? People taking this approach of like Russia. Who's Russia? It's a country with 5,000 nuclear weapons. That's who. You know. Um, do you want the world to end for Ukraine? Of course not. And my thoughts on the matter, on the Ukraine Russia matter, is I have to think about this. It's complicated, of course. I believe the best. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but the best outcome for Ukraine in this situation is for every party involved to just relax. I mean, as you can see here, Russia, Ukrainian president urges West to cool rhetoric, and that's a good point because the West is really adamant about going to war, and the Ukrainians are like, okay, we are on the border here. Shut the fuck up, U.S. on the other continent. We are on the border. Stop, escalating this. And then of course Putin has gripes with NATO about U.S. Of course he will, but, yeah, it's just one of those things that I don't know how they're gonna resolve themselves. This, I hope. Let me go back to my initial point of what do I think it's the best for Ukraine. I think the best thing for the Ukraine would be now. If you're Ukrainian, don't get mad at this. This is just my initial thoughts. I haven't really thought about it. The best case scenario, there will be a ceasefire. Uh, they lose. They give up. This is gonna sound really bad, but they give up the occupied Donetsk and Donbass regions to Russia. They secede any claims towards Crimea. But they have to get guarantees that Russia won't expand any, they won't bother them, they won't do anything to them. Guarantees signed by every major country, including Russia and the West, and maybe even the East, even China. Like the way during the First World War, there was this Treaty of Independence signed by every major power guaranteeing the independence of Belgium. And that's why there were a lot of, that's why Britain got involved. But so Russia doesn't invade, but also they promise that they won't join NATO. Well, I know that's never gonna happen because it's just too much. Uh, it's just too much political. It will be like a nuclear bomb going off. We give up these territories. Which I mean, they will never get back Crimea unless there's a third world war and then the afterwards. But anyways, guys, I hope you like my reaction. I hope you like my thoughts. I think about doing these sort of what's been going on this past week type of deals more often. Tell me what you guys think. This was very interesting week. I'll come back with you next week with updates on what's been going on. I'll see you guys next time. See you guys.